बात करते हैं इस्लामाबाद इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट के बारे में, जिसकी तामीर के दौरान काफी अजीबोगरीब वाकयात सामने आए थे। कहा जाता है कि यहाँ काम करने वाले वर्कर्स अपने सीने पर बोझ महसूस करते थे। यहाँ पर काम करने वाले कई स्टाफ मेंबर्स का कहना है कि उनकी कुछ चीजें गायब हो जाती हैं और फिर कुछ ही देर के बाद वापस वहीं से मिलती हैं, और साथ ही एक अजीब सी हंसी सुनाई देती है, जैसे कोई उनकी चीजों के साथ खेल रहा हो। इस एयरपोर्ट पर अक्सर पायलट्स को लैंडिंग के दौरान रनवे पर बच्चे भागते हुए दिखाई देते हैं, जबकि रनवे बिल्कुल खाली होता है। एयरपोर्ट पर कुछ अफराद ड्यूटी के दौरान ऐसी मखलूक को देख चुके हैं जिसे बर्दाश्त करना उनके बस की बात नहीं थी, जिसकी वजह से काफी लोग इस मंजर को देखने के बाद बेहोश भी हुए। इस एयरपोर्ट की सीसीटीवी फुटेज में भी कई बार ऐसी चीजें देखी गई हैं जो गैर मरई मखलूक की मौजूदगी को जाहिर करती हैं। इस एयरपोर्ट पर ऐसे गैर मामूली वाकयात सामने आ चुके हैं जो आम अकल और समझ से बाहर हैं।
Explained what hibernation was, or if she did, she was way too out of her mind to say it in a way that made sense to me. I sorta just gave up and did what she needed me to. I was positive that she ate a laced Krabby Patty or got stung by the wrong sea creature and that all this would be over once it was out of her system. But in the meantime, I tried to help her however I could. It took an entire day of hard work to get done with everything she wanted to do, and then as soon as it was all finished, she rushed me out the door.
All right, SpongeBob, thanks for the help. Now leave and don't come back.
Don't come back? You mean never ever?
Well, just a few months until I'm done hibernating, you know.
No, Sandy, I don't. Tell me what's going on.
SpongeBob, don't make me tell you to leave again.
All right, Sandy. If that's how it is, then goodbye. She slammed the door in my face and I walked all the way home in the dark. My whole entire day off was spent just like that. But I was even more depressed because I felt like I had lost a friend. Even if Sandy was still in Bikini Bottom, the Sandy I knew was no longer there. I had no choice but to leave her alone and hope that someday I could see the real Sandy again. Weeks passed before I tried talking to her again, but she didn't answer any of my calls. I tried calling everyone I knew, but nobody was picking up the phone, not even my good friends Patrick and Squidward. I even knocked on their doors just to be completely ignored. It was like everyone in town was ghosting me. But then, as time went on, it started to feel more like I was living in a ghost town. First, Squidward stopped showing up to work, and then Mr. Krabs stopped opening the Krusty Krab altogether. I expected a line of people outraged at the door, but not a single person cared enough to show up. With nothing else to live for, I decided to live like
I don't know about y'all, but the scary stories involving kids are always the creepiest to me. Since I had to read this one before bed, y'all have to hear it too. So Stephanie has two kids. They're now 17 and 14 years old. But back when they were 2 and 4 years old, they started seeing something and talking to something that they called the boy. Let's back it up a bit. There was one day when Stephanie remembers being home alone with her two kids, and at the time they were like 2.5 years old and 6 months old. The 2-year-old was napping, so Stephanie decided she was going to go take a shower, and she put the 6-month-old in like a bouncer seat in the bathroom with her. So outside her bathroom door, she had a small like miniature chest. There was a glass candle sitting on top of it, and it was just filled with pictures. When she got out of the shower and went to leave the bathroom, she noticed that the chest was flipped over sideways and the candle was shattered. Again, the 2-year-old was sleeping and the baby was with her. Her husband was at work and she did have an older child, but they were at school. She was freaked out, but she never really figured out that mystery. She just cleaned up the mess and moved on with her life. Fast forward, and the 6-month-old baby is now 2 years old and the 2-year-old is now 4. The 4-year-old started telling Stephanie stories about the boy that was in her baby brother's bedroom, saying, "The boy just wants to play, the boy told me to dump out the toys, the boy told me to draw on the wall," stuff like that. He was a 4-year-old and he had a very vivid imagination, so they just chalked it up to that. But as the youngest one started being able to talk more, he also started being afraid to sleep in his room, saying things like, "The boy won't leave me alone, the boy wants to play." I don't guess he started sleeping through the night until kindergarten, which I know isn't like super uncommon, but still. So fast forward again to when the kids are 3 and 5. We're in the living room playing with toys, watching TV, while Stephanie made some dinner in the kitchen right next to them. She could hear her daughter making the Barbies be mean to each other, and she was making her Barbies like be mean to the G.I. Joe doll that her son had in his hand. So Stephanie peeked around the corner and was like, "Hey now, let's not be mean to each other, you know, we need to be nice." She said what happened next was like out of a movie scene. Her daughter was sitting in the living room with her back turned towards her. She slowly turned just her head around to look at Stephanie, and she said in like a low growl voice, I'm just doing what the boy wants us to do. He's the boss of this house. Stephanie said this was the most vivid memory that she had of them with the boy, and it really freaked her out. They moved out not long after that. Her children still bring up the boy when telling their own ghost stories. And just as a side note, there was some crayon drawings in the youngest son's bedroom closet when they bought the house. They're all convinced that maybe this was his room. I cannot wait to hear what y'all think about this story in the comments. And yes, I read all the comments. If you have a scary story you'd like to send me, you can send it to my email, which is linked in my bio. As always, I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.
Get ready with me while I tell you my Tinder nightmare story time. So first, I gotta tell you how this starts. Basically, one day, me and my friend were hungry for snacks and we wanted to go to the gas station, but it was late at night. We ended up going anyways, and we pull up to the gas station. As we're entering the gas station, this 6'4", freaking muscly, cute-ass dude is walking out of the gas station, and he holds the door open for me. As we're inside the gas station picking snacks, I'm literally looking at my friend that was the hottest guy I've ever seen. What the fuck? What is he doing at the gas station at 3 in the morning? What are we doing at the gas station at 3 in the morning? I literally kid you not, as I was picking out the snacks, I was thinking about him. I was like, what the heck? I want to talk to that guy so bad. Anyways, we pick out our snacks and we go back to my friend's house. And we're sitting there and I'm just telling her, I want to know who that guy is so fucking bad. Who is he? Who is this man? Anyways, to get my mind off of him, I decided to open Tinder because I already had an account, but I hadn't gone on it in a while. You guys, I kid you not, the very first person to pop up was the guy from the gas station. No fucking joke. I immediately passed the phone over to my friend and I was like, is this not the fucking guy we just saw at the gas station? She was like, it is. So I swiped right, and guess what? We matched immediately. We literally matched immediately. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, should I message him first or do I wait? And I just I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait and see what he says. He messages me and says, am I crazy or did I just see you at the gas station an hour ago? I was like, oh my god, he remembered me, bye. So I respond saying, haha, yes, that was me. It's actually crazy because I wanted to get your number, but I was too scared to do it. And then he responds with, that's actually crazy because I wanted to get your number too, but I thought it'd be creepy for a guy to come up to you at a gas station at 3 in the morning. I'm not even kidding you at this point. I was planning my life with him. I was like, this was meant to be. Because what the fuck are the odds I see someone at a gas station and then see them on Tinder an hour later? So then we're messaging and he asks for my number. So I give him my number and we start texting. So then he finally asked me out on a date. And that's where things started going downhill. Let me know if you want part 2.
I occasionally do some deliveries for Postmates, usually late at night after work during the week or on weekends. I use my motorcycle as it allows me to get from point A to point B faster. I was delivering some Mexican food to a guy named Ron. It was a 15-minute drive from the burrito place to Ron's address. When I got to the listed address, I brought the food up the long driveway and up to the front door. I rang the bell and an older woman opened the door. I said delivery for Ronnie, but the woman looked confused and said there's no Ronnie here. I apologized and said I had the wrong house. So I went back to my bike and double-checked the app, making sure I was at the right house. And according to the app, I was. The house number was 15, just like listed on the app. I figured it was time to call this Ron guy to figure out if he had made a mistake with the address. I used the call feature on the app, but after one ring, it went to voicemail. So I tried texting instead, and within seconds, he replied back. I told him the address he gave me was wrong, and he swiftly said, yeah, sorry about that. He explained that he didn't actually live here, but that he was chilling with his friend in the preserve across the street from the house listed on the delivery. He requested I come into the nature preserve by the fire and drop it off there. He mentioned he was sorry about this and was planning on leaving a generous tip. One time before, I did have someone request I drop off their food at a park near their house, so at that moment it didn't seem like the strangest thing in the world. It was just a slight inconvenience, but one that he'd apparently make up for with the tip. The preserve was gated, but there happened to be an opening leading into it right across the street from the house. I followed the dirt trail until the light posts ended, and any further I would be walking into complete darkness. I looked around for the light of the fire, and as a matter of fact, I did see a hint of light coming from the woods. I started making my way over into the increasing darkness of the woods, leaving the lit up area. As I got closer, I could confirm it was light from a fire. Why were they in the middle of the woods, though? And the question of why they were expecting me to bring it to them out there started to ring in my head. I yelled out Ron's name a few times when I was within yelling distance of the fire. No answer. When I got close enough, I noticed something. There was no one sitting around that campfire. I asked myself, was that the right fire? But that was a silly question. How many fires could there be on a weeknight in the preserve? I walked a little closer to the fire and noticed a tent behind it. Maybe they were in there. So once again, I yelled Ron's name as I approached the tent. It was zipped up. I tapped on the tent and said Ron's name again. So I finally unzipped the tent and knelt down to look inside. I saw someone laying down on their stomach, facing away from me, so that their shoes were only a few inches from my face. They seemed to be asleep. This was getting a bit ridiculous, so I just marked the order as delivered and turned ready to walk away. I didn't even make it a single step before noticing someone standing about 20 feet from me, between two big trees. He called out, "Are you alone?" "No," I said. "My friend is just over there." The guy asked, "Why aren't you alone?" I said I do my deliveries with a partner. He asked, "Where's my food?" I was about to tell him I was in the tent, when I felt two hands grab both my legs and tried pulling me down. I looked down and saw the arms reaching out from the tent. Ron, presumably the guy who I was just talking to, started charging at me. With only maybe 5 seconds to act, I did manage to escape the grasp of the two hands and run past Ron, if that was even his real name. I don't think he chased me after I left the vicinity of the fire. I found my way back to the bike easily, and I drove off without taking a second to look back. I contacted Postmates customer service about it. They told me I should escalate it to the police, as there was nothing they could do. By the time they even responded with that, I didn't even feel up to going through with a police report. I just figured I'd let it go. I got lucky and I was unharmed. Still, it taught me one thing. If your instinct tells you to turn and walk away, do it.
I hear the train a-comin'. It's rollin' around the bend. And I ain't seen the...
Last winter, my brother and I went to a small cabin owned by our uncle in the mountain valley. We drove for 3 hours to reach the place. The area was so stranded that the closest hotel was 70 kilometers away, but we were young and wanted to stay close to nature. My brother and I are both trained skiers, so upon reaching, all we wanted to do was go skiing in the thick white snow. We honked our horns and got down of the car. A teenage boy, about 15 to 16 years old, came out running from the cabin. He was very young and had a smile on his face. His eyes looked sleepy though, like he was tired. He took our luggage and showed us the way in. My brother and I entered the cabin. It was a small, common cabin in the woods. There was a fireplace in the room, and in the corner was wood piled up for it.
"It gets really cold at night,"
the boy said in a calm voice. My brother told him that we were going skiing, so it would be good if he could prepare dinner for us. The boy smiled and nodded his head. We got dressed in our skiing clothes, took our equipment, and started gliding down the woods. All the trees were bare, robbed straight out of their leaves. The white snow was sparkling as the sun's rays fell on them. We were going slow because the wind was really cold, and we were halfway in the woods when the snowfall began.
"Let's take a break, then we'll head back,"
I said to my brother. He agreed, and we grabbed our skis and poles and started walking to this big tree buried in snow. Suddenly, we heard a sound, almost like a small grunt, and we stopped. Next to that tree stood a man. He was looking up at the sky. The snowflakes were falling on his face. We could only see his long neck and pointy shoulders. He didn't move. I looked at my brother. Both of us were feeling a little freaked out. The man was behaving so weirdly. I gestured to my brother to slowly step back without disturbing him and go back to our cabins fast. We took 3 steps back when I accidentally stepped on a twig. It crunched and the man looked down at us. His eyes were glowing like a wolf. There was blood smeared all over his mouth. That's when for the first time I noticed his right hand. He was clenching a dead rabbit. Its stomach was ripped open and its entrails hanging out. The man wiped the blood off his face with his other hand and he smiled ear to ear. I heard my brother scream,
Stefan, now! Run! Run! Run!
I started running. My brother was behind me. We didn't see if the man followed us. Breathing and panting like a dog, we came back to the cabin. We slammed the door and double-locked it. The teenage boy realized something was wrong. He came out of the kitchen and I yelled,
Call the cops now! Why? What happened, sir? Stefan, there's no network in my phone.
I checked my phone as well. My brother was right.
The lines are dead here, sir. It's the snow.
The boy replied in a calm voice.
Did anything happen, sir?
He asked. I was going to tell him, but then my brother stopped me. He thought the boy will get scared and leave us there. So, we told him we heard a wild animal in the woods. He kept cooking quietly. After half an hour, when we have calmed down, we felt embarrassed. So we stopped thinking about the man and went to our rooms to freshen up. A few minutes later, when we came out for dinner, suddenly, the light went off. A heavy snowstorm had started outside. I could hear the glass windows trembling with the mad wind.
Hello? Where are you? What was his name? We never asked his name.
My brother and I were looking for the teenage boy, when suddenly we heard footsteps. Someone was outside our cabin. My brother and I slowly turned our heads towards the big window right beside the fireplace, and the lights hit. The man we saw in those woods was outside our living room window, resting his bloody palm on the glass and planting his face on it in a distorted way while staring dead at us. He slowly opened his mouth and started licking the blood smeared around his red tongue. His eyes never blinked, pupils never moved. My voice died down my throat. I was stiff as ice. That's when the boy walked in like he was hiding there all this time.
Any problem, sir? It's him. He's the one we saw in the woods. Oh, him?
The boy casually walked to the window, put his hand on the glass like he adored this freak, and looked back at us. His face got the same grin this man gave us the first time.
He's my dad. There's nothing wrong with him. What? You don't need to be scared of him. He's harmless once he is done eating.
I grabbed the car keys from the wall and pulled my brother's hand and opened the door to run out to our car. We didn't care that we were barefoot. We didn't bother that we had no warm clothes on, just in our night pajamas, because all we wanted was to live. We heard the boy laughing and screaming.
There's nothing wrong with him. He just loves to hunt for his food.
The engine rumbled and we got back to the road. Our luggage was inside, but that was no time to go back for them. We drove for about 2 hours and found the next hotel. The snowstorm made it excessively risky to drive, but there was no way we were staying with this psycho father-son duo. Once we reached safety, we called our uncle to inform him about this caretaker boy and his father. What my uncle said gave me chills. No caretaker or third-party employee ever worked on that property. The keys are always under the porch rug. The fact that we stayed with a stranger who appeared like nothing but psychos made me sweat in terror. I gave the phone to my brother because I had had enough for the night. He explained everything that had happened in the cabin and informed him about this boy and his father. He called the cops, and the next morning we went to the cabin with them. No one was there. Our luggage was gone. Most likely they took them. We had no money, no clothes, and not even our shoes. The place was swept clean. We called our dad, and he came the second day to pick us up from that motel and also pay the bills. I still remember that incident with dread. God knows what would have happened if they had any weapons. Since then, I've decided that I will never stay in any stranded cabin for my entire life.
Every summer, my parents go away for a few weeks to our vacation home in Savannah, Georgia. That leaves me home alone with our 2 cats. We live on a canal. My dad has a Boston whaler and 2 jet skis in the yard. Across the canal from us is marsh, and further down the canal is a park. Not a lot of boat traffic passes our yard as a result, and it's very private and secluded. Our house is decently big, but I feel like my dad probably spent more money on the boat than he did our house, to be honest. It draws a lot of attention. I loved when my parents would be gone for their trip, especially since I'm off during the summer and have free reign to do whatever I want, and have over whoever I want, just no parties. I had the girl I was seeing for a little bit over to hang out in the backyard one night. We sat in the hot tub, and when the hot tub cycled off and it went quiet out, I heard something from the canal. Sometimes you'd hear fish or birds splashing in the water, but this sounded more rhythmic. I stood up and saw in the canal someone kayaking by. I couldn't see anything more than that, though. No features, I couldn't even see what they were wearing. A little unusual this hour at night and this far up the canal, but it is a public canal nonetheless, and it was not a cause for alarm. I did tell the girl I was with how unusual it was, though. Little did I know that that was not the last time I'd be seeing that person. Later that night, when we were in bed upstairs, I had the windows closed because the AC was on. The windows in my room faced the canal in the backyard. I had turned off the lamp next to my bed and was watching The Sopranos with a girl who was sleeping over. Suddenly, a white light was flashing through the window. It was moving around sporadically. Both of our reactions at first were simply, what the actual hell is that? She asked if that's a helicopter light, which I dismissed immediately because that was silly. I said I think it's a flashlight. I turned off the TV to bring total darkness in the room. Then I got off the bed and stepped just to the side of the window so I could peek out and see where the light was coming from. I saw. It was someone waving a flashlight from the canal. In fact, it looked like that person on the kayak again. The girl I was with, who I'll just call Jane from here on out, asked me what it was. I told her it's that guy from the kayak before, waving a flashlight through the window. And how did he know we were in the specific room? I told her it must have been because he saw the light from the TV screen through the window. He already knew someone was in here. Having a girl in the room gave me that basic, primal urge to act like a man and not be scared. So I opened the window and yelled out, "What do you want?" A weak-sounding man yelled back, "Please, I need help." I yelled back, "He yelled back, "I'm injured and I can't get out of the kayak." I looked at Jane and asked her opinion of what I should do. She said I should go out there and help him. I called back out to the man, "Do you want me to call 911? And he called back, "No, I just need help getting out of this kayak." I called back to the man, "Okay, I'll come out." I closed the window, then I sighed and told Jane to wish me luck. She wasn't wearing much clothes in the bed, so I wasn't going to make her get dressed and go out there with me. I threw on a t-shirt and ran downstairs. Then I threw on my slides and opened the back door. I turned on the backyard lights and stepped outside, and that's when I heard a blood-curdling scream from upstairs. It was Jane, screaming my name. I looked around the yard in response in a panic, and I saw a man running towards me from the canal. I ran inside and slammed the door shut and locked it, with only 2 seconds to spare because there was a giant bang on the door, followed by the man trying to twist the doorknob open. I grabbed the entire knife holder from the kitchen and brought it upstairs. I locked my bedroom door, and Jane told me she saw that man sneaking up on me the second I turned on the lights outside. He was no old, weak, injured man. He was this big-looking guy. We were paranoid that he was lurking around the property still. I called my dad to tell him what happened, and he told me I should be on the phone with the police right now, not him. So I called 911, and the police came, did a search of the property, did a report, then rang some of the neighbors' doorbells. Any of my neighbors who answered didn't see anything. The strange part was that the kayak was gone, which led me to believe he ran back to get it and likely ran into the marsh. The fact that we have a decently nice house and an $800,000 boat in the backyard in a secluded, tucked-away spot of the canal probably made us look like an easy target to break into that night. That person may have even somehow knew that my parents were away. Scary of how I didn't have a girl over that night. I wouldn't have made it back inside in time to lock the door.